Hello, greetings. Today's superpower session is based on trust, which in a way shouldn't be like a superpower at all because we're born with it. When we're born, we're like other mammals and we trust that we'll be fed and looked after, and it's sort of part of who we are. The catch is that over time, there are patterns that start which I think undermine trust. We can have difficulty being told what to do all the time. So there's right stuff and wrong stuff. And sometimes those are quite arbitrary, but it's as if we get conditioned all the time to being right. And if we can't be right all the time, then that reflects on us. And by having a sense of not being right, we start not trusting ourselves. And of course, when we go to school, and there's quite a pattern about being right or being wrong, and if we're consistently placed in the wrong basket, our self-trust diminishes even further. And this happens quite slowly over time, and it's built up as a habit. So to get the trust back, we have to look at a way of undoing that habit. Now, one of the things we experience at TLC is at the start of a program, when people are on site, people do a bunch of very simple, accessible drawing exercises, and after we've done 4 or 5 of those, people lay out in front of them what they've done and have a walk around seeing what everyone else has done. Now, when I first started leading sessions that had that aspect, I thought there would be a number of people who would be very uneasy about it. In practice, it has turned out that people really enjoy doing it, and they might have some trepidation putting their work out, but in a very short time the level of trust surges forward and it works superbly. People in the whole group right near the start begin to trust each other and trust themselves. Now, a big part of this is when they do their drawing, we're looking for anything in their work that is positive. If things went wrong, I mean, sometimes the drawing isn't accurate or just doesn't hold together, and yet at the same time there are aspects of it, energy or whatever, that come forward really strongly. So people support each other in terms of what works, and they don't fret about what hasn't worked. Now, at the heart of this is a concept called Aqua, which is connected with a Maori way of doing things, but it translates totally into any culture. And the idea is we have a non-hierarchical system. The teacher is learning from students, students are learning from the teacher and each other. So everybody is learning from everybody. And for that to run, not only does it depend on trust, it actually reinforces trust all the way. Now, in terms of creativity, being trusted and trusting other people is essential. If we're not trustworthy, our chances of reaching out in the community and being taken seriously are quite small. And in fact, we actually become rather alert to sources of creativity, for example, that are basically not authentic. So we have to build trust. And to build trust, we need to be authentic. And that comes back to trusting ourselves. Now, from the point of view of our tutors, they're trusting in a way at a different level. The levels work out from trusting self, trusting others, trusting community, trusting the wider world. Now, there are hazards along the way, but what we're going to concentrate on today is trusting ourselves. One idea to build self-trust is to choose something that you would really like to do, but somehow you've avoided it. For example, it could be something quite simple, like cooking, could be gardening, could be playing a musical instrument, anything like that, where you've pulled back a bit from really even getting a beginning commitment to it. Now, the first thing, what establishes that beginning commitment? Well, I think the big deal is to take some action. So if you want to learn about cooking, where do you start? It might be on the internet and you look up ideas about how to do it, and that begins to get things moving. And then from those ideas, you choose just one aspect which gets you started. Now, maybe it's helpful to do this by yourself, but if you've got good volunteers, they might join you in your cooking. I once met a woman who had been born in a place where all the cooking was done for her, and as she grew older, into her 70s and 80s, she found she didn't even know how to boil an egg. Now, not everyone's going to want to know how to boil an egg, but she felt cookbooks were inadequate because they didn't go down to that basic level. If you're doing it yourself and you don't know something, jumping across that first hurdle is really important. So you do that, you make a choice, and then you try it out. You see if you can get it to work. Now, there are aspects in this which are important. Firstly, you're taking a risk. You're experimenting, and you don't know whether it's going to come out right. And in terms of trust, it is frequently open-ended. You don't know what is going to be a success, what's going to be a partial success, and what might not be a success at all. Although even if it's not a success, you've learned something. So it's still a step forward, and it's important to keep that in mind too, and give yourself praise just for doing the experiment. Then the next stage is you keep doing the basic thing, whatever it is, and maybe one or two others if it works, and you practice that so that it restores as a habit. Well, in this case, it wasn't a habit in the first place, but when you consider our original situation was we were inclined to trust, so this is going back to that inclination. You're restoring a process of trust. And habits, interestingly, are central to that process. You're restoring trust. Once you get a foothold, as it were, you can then extend. You can learn how to do a more complex recipe. If you're playing a musical instrument, you can learn how to do more complex things. If you're painting and drawing, same deal. Now, information such as you find on the internet, or with a tutor, or with other people you know, fellow students, whatever it is, all of that contributes, and you need to find out what works best for you, because we each have our own style. What still worries me is education doesn't always cater well for this particular process, and in fact may put a lot of effort into obstacles. The way we keep getting evaluated, the way marks are regarded so strongly, even grades A, B, C, D, we all want an A. So I think that can be a problem, and we need to find ways to get around it. Otherwise, our creativity remains constricted, and it's because we're not trusting ourselves. What I went through during this process, putting together these ideas, I looked up quite a long list of things which would possibly suit for you to do yourself. The thing is, think of something you want to do, something that is open-ended. And that's why I was talking about cooking, music, etc. And there are lots of these things where there's no set answer. In fact, the revolutions in any field, no matter what, are because somebody has departed from what's already known. If you want to establish a craft, that's fine. And actually, getting the confidence of craft can be important in building your confidence, but going further than the craft, being willing to go beyond the edges, as it were, does require you to be creative. That's how it works. Now, on our website, we'll put up a list of things you might try, but there'll be lots of other things which won't be on the list. You have to think about what is important to you. If you make progress on this, be aware that it can be really slow. You're changing a habit or habits that may have taken years to establish. There are two things about this. Sometimes you get an insight almost in a flash that you can do something, but it's still not a habit. Establishing that excitement of the first jump can take quite a long time. So being patient with yourself is a big deal. If you do something, it goes wrong, my suggestion is take a break. The break might be a day or so even. You don't have to keep pushing things which aren't feeling right. You take it slowly. Now I find if I write something and I take a break, I look at it later and I think, oh my goodness, I missed this, should have restructured. Oh, those bits were good. I put it back together, have another attempt at it. I do that all the time, and I've been doing this for many years, and I found that by far the best process. It's not something which you learn and then put aside. It's something that will do you for the rest of your life. That's why I think it's a superpower. So all the best trying it out for yourself. If you want to get in touch, do so. You can reach me on my email, which is on our website. Thanks very much.